This week on the first installment of the 1044 of 2021, we're going to take a look at what's going on in Washington and the cost of roadside maintenance. Why is it going up? And our mailbag question, it's not really a question as much as it is a statement against emissions equipment. So let's get started. Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the 1044, a weekly webisode and podcast from the editors of CCJ, Overdrive, and Truck Parts Service. I'm Jason Cannon, editor of CCJ, and my co-host James Gillette, who is usually alongside with me for this broadcast. He's on a pretty cool assignment right now. Regular readers of Overdrive's website, overdriveonline.com, you're in for a treat in the coming days because that website's getting a more user-friendly and refreshed makeover. James is playing a pretty large role in that development, so he wasn't able to join us today. For all of you guys out there who are regular readers of ccjdigital.com, stay tuned. A refreshed look of that website's also on deck. You'll get a first look at that within the next 10 days or so. And as always, this broadcast will be hit on YouTube, various social media channels, and you can also look for it on your preferred podcast listening app each week, where you should find a new episode of the 1044. This isn't necessarily a political commentary, but good Lord, how is 2021 going worse than 2020 did? The transition from the Trump to the Biden administration formally got underway Wednesday with the ceremonial counting of the Electoral College votes, and obviously that proved to be a lot more eventful than it otherwise should have been. In any event, President-elect Biden's team has a little less than 2 weeks to get their collective minds right, and they took the first step on that with the first day of the new year, saying that Joe Biden would halt or delay any last-minute actions by the Trump administration, and those are collectively known as midnight regulations. This has some implications for trucking because one of those regulations could be a decision on the classification of certain employees as independent contractors, which clearly would have implications for many truck drivers. Other trucking regs that could be held up include 2 pilot programs, one's for drivers under the age of 21 that could potentially allow them to cross state lines, and the other would have a little bit more flexibility within hours of service by letting drivers pause their on-duty driving period with one off-duty period of up to 3 hours. That was proposed under the most recent hours reforms, but it didn't make the cut. Now, there's no indication that these are high-priority items for the Trump administration as they exit the White House, but should you see them pop up in the next few days and see that these measures have passed, just know that they'll probably be ground to a halt almost immediately. Stepping out of Washington for a moment, the cost of roadside maintenance jumped slightly in the third quarter last year, according to the most recent quarterly benchmarking report, which is compiled by FleetNet America in partnership with the Technology and Maintenance Council. Cost per mechanical repair, which excludes tires and tow, topped $500 for the second consecutive quarter, and it reached the highest amount in the third quarter since FleetNet and TMC started the benchmarking program in late 2017. Tires and tows are excluded from the repair cost data due to the significant rate and cost variability among carriers. Following a dip of about $3 from the fourth quarter 2019 to the first quarter of 2020, the cost of mechanical repairs increased each quarter last year, and significantly so. It's jumped 21% from the first quarter to the third quarter of 2020. LTL carriers have been hit the hardest by these costs, shelling out around $642 per event. Truckload carriers are faring just a little bit better at $411. And that leads us to our mailbag. We got a lot of comments around the roadside maintenance article that I just referenced, and a lot of those were around emissions equipment. VRMS code 043, which is the exhaust system, was in the top 5 for most frequently repaired systems. I know fleets and drivers in general like to bag on California, carbs specifically, but keep an eye on them if you're really concerned about emissions control devices and the cost to repair them. CARB proposed several rules last year aimed at enacting more rules that cut emissions in the state. One of them would require a longer warranty period from the manufacturer on emissions equipment. The thought behind this is that since this equipment's fairly expensive to repair, fleets delay those repairs as long as possible. But the entire time that repair is needed, that emissions equipment has fallen out of compliance. Now, by extending the warranty period, that's a two-sided coin. Obviously, some carriers take better care of their equipment than others. So it's almost certainly going to drive up warranty repair costs. So just keep an eye on that as we march our way into 2021, especially if you're concerned about the costs associated with emissions equipment repair. Well, that's it for this edition of the 1044. Hit us with your mailbag questions at 1044trucking@gmail.com. That's 1044trucking@gmail.com. Any questions and feedback, they're always welcome. Give us a call at 404-491-1380. Leave us a message. We check that line often. We would love to hear from you. Maybe we'd even love to have you on the podcast here. So you guys take care, stay safe, and we'll see you all next week. And hopefully James will be able to join us.